Welcome to the Tyneside Irish Cultural Society podcast with me, Michael McNally. Hi everyone, and welcome to our October podcast. This month we're going to be talking about a new movie, Love Yourself Today. It stars none other than the sensationally talented Damien Dempsey. It's directed by Ross Killeen and produced by Motherland Films. There's a screening on the 3rd of November, Wednesday night, at the Tyneside Cinema. And I'm going to be hosting the questions and answers afterwards with both Ross and Damien. Now, I thought it would be nice to ask them if they would appear on our podcast. And guess what? They said yes. So, without further ado, let's go and meet them. I spoke to them a little bit earlier. Can I ask you, Damien, first of all, just a little bit about, for those who don't know about your music and your background, a little bit about where you grew up. And there's a couple of elements to that I would like you to mention, if you don't mind. Just a bit about the boxing, because I'm a huge boxing fan. And obviously with a name like Dempsey, you would expect you to be good, you know.
I hadn't got that killer instinct, Michael, you know. I was a bit of a hippie, you know, I could take a good punch and hit really hard, but that killer instinct you need for the fighting and all. I used to love sparring. I had a few fights. Or the champion of Dublin, but the fighting, you know, you have to go out there and they're training and say it's a war. You have to hate this fella. And I say, I don't even know him. He might be a nice fella. Shut up! It's a war. You know, so that killer instinct against a stranger across the ring wasn't really in me. You know, because I was playing guitar at the same time, but the boxing came in very handy. Walking around the neighbourhood and gangs of gurriers, you know, think you're a soft target with your guitar and you'd be able to knock them out. You know, so it came in very handy.
Definitely. Well, my dad, when he was growing up, he said he smashed loads of guitars when back in the 50s and the 60s. He was a singer, and he said there was lots of fights used to happen. And when I was listening to some of your stories, I'm thinking, wow, it's a bit like my dad growing up, and you know, you in Dublin, and you know, my dad on Tyneside is a sort of son of an Irishman, you know.
Right, sure, comes in handy. The heart is a handy weapon, all right, yeah.
Now, listen, growing up as you did, you know, you've experienced an awful lot of the challenging side of life, and a lot of your friends and family have been through some incredible experiences, and you reflect that in a lot of your songs and your music. But there's something about this. There's always hope, you know, even though you did.
Always hope, I always have a chink of hope, you know, no matter how dark the song about terrible stuff. I always have hope in my heart, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
My mother's very positive, you know, and I think I've inherited her positivity, you know. And I love Bob Marley, and he was always very positive, you know. He's political and soulful and positive, you know. And that's just I try to be soulful and positive with the music and give people a lift, even if it's about a very heavy subject. I still try and always have that chink of light in the song, you know, to lift people, you know. Music, it's one of the greatest gifts. It helps us through life, you know. It's not about fame or the being famous, or for me, or the X Factor and all that stuff. It's about helping people through life and helping yourself through life, you know.
I think that's what I find so appealing about your music is the authenticity and the fact that this is real. This is, you know, it hits you in the soul, you know, and it. You know, rather than all the sort of superficial rubbish that's in the pop charts and stuff, it's really refreshing. You know, it's honestly, I can't tell you how. I've just been listening today. I've listened to it 10 times, apple of my eye. I did a bit of a session in the gym, and I kept playing it over and over again.
Great.
It's brilliant, man. I just love it. Listen, come to you, Ross, just briefly, because, you know, making movies is a big job, and it's a highly skilled and extremely competitive market. Your cinematography and the way you edit stuff together, it's astoundingly good. You know, the bits I've seen, absolutely incredible. So how did you get into it? What's your background?
I was an editor and kind of fell into directing, really, to be honest. I directed a short film almost by accident. I was launching a company, and I was like, I need a film to launch the company. So we were like, at the time in Dublin, it was a hot summer, and all these young lads were swimming in the River Liffey, which is a kind of filthy river here that goes through the city. And it was these young lads were from kind of Sheriff Street, part of the inner city in Dublin, you know, and it's kind of a gentrified area, if you like, where all Google and Facebook and stuff have now set up offices. And a lot of people were giving out about these young lads, going, "Oh, look at them, you know, swimming here, and isn't it terrible?" And you know, and we went down with the cameras and we just made a film which kind of heroed them, you know, and it was great. It was just all about young lads growing up, and the film was called Becoming Men, and it was very much about that period in your life where you're becoming a man, you know, and you're growing up and you're jumping off bridges into the water, and the higher you go, the more of a man you are, I suppose, you know. So that ended up being quite successful here in Ireland, you know. It kind of went viral, if you like, and that gave me a bit of confidence to kind of go and do it more, you know. So I then made a short about an ice cream man called Pinky, and it was called 99 Problems, and it was about the murky side of the ice cream business. So it was a short documentary following this guy Pinky and learning about all the territorial spats that he had in his time. And then Love Yourself Today now is my first feature documentary, and I'm very excited to get it out to people and to show people, and it's one I'm very proud of. Yeah, I think I've done a good job on it, you know.
Brilliant. The concept for this film, where did it come from? I mean, how did you two come together?
I went along to a demo gig a few years back, and I was going through a hard time. My mother was very sick, and someone told me, you know, go and see Damo, go to a Damo show and it'll help you. And I went along, and my wife was pregnant, and we basically sat in Vicar Street, you know, and I don't normally sit at gigs. I'm normally up the front, you know, and I go to a lot of gigs, you know, concerts, all different types of music. And so I was sat there at the gig, and I'd say at the time I wasn't a huge fan of Damo. I, you know, knew about the music, and I certainly knew a lot of the songs, but I'd never seen him live before, you know. So I sat there with my wife, and the gig started, and I was just like, wow. I was like watching the crowd, watching Damo. The crowd are singing. He's telling them all to sing. He was like on stage just getting all this energy from the crowd. Then the crowd are all crying. Then I'm crying, and I'm like, what's going on? And then, you know, at the end, everyone's Love Yourself Today, and, you know, everyone walked out of the gig feeling amazing, and I felt amazing. I was like, I just felt like spiritually cleansed or something, you know, after going to the gig. And I was like, there's something really special here, you know, that I haven't experienced in other concerts that I've been to, you know. So I left the gig feeling great, and a couple of days later, I met a friend of mine, Ross MacDonald, who's, you know, he's an old friend of mine, but also like a really respected and renowned director and photographer. And myself and Ross were having a few pints, and I said to Ross, "Oh, I've been to this gig," and he said, "Oh, I was at that last year. It's amazing, isn't it?" And I was like, "Yeah," and he's like, I had this idea that like it'd be cool to, you know, do a documentary, you know, about the fans. And the minute he said it, I was just like, yeah, I can see it. I knew exactly how it would happen, you know, what songs. And I was like, I want in, let's do this, you know. So I thought he was going to direct it and I'd produce it, because I'm kind of producer as well, you know. So I thought I'd produce it and he'd direct it. And for months, he was based in New York then, because he lives over there. So we were back and forth on email. I was like, come on, let's do it. And eventually he kind of turned around and said, look, you're there in Dublin, why don't you direct it? So I was like, okay. And I'd never directed a feature doc before, so this was kind of a big undertaking for me, you know. So at that point, kind of wrote out the idea and put it all into a document, you know, a presentation, if you like. And through a mutual friend, managed to get it to Damien. And then I met Damo in a cafe in Raheny near where Damo lives, and sat opposite him and explained to him what the idea was and, you know, how we do it and all that kind of stuff. And he didn't really say a whole lot, kind of just listened, you know, taking it all in. And then at the end, I didn't know whether he like hated the idea or thought I was an idiot or whatever, you know. But at the end, he just kind of turned around. Well, he looked up and basically said, I love it. It's great. But let's make a film that helps people, you know. And that was like something that was like rule number one from the get-go was, okay, great, let's do this film. And then let's make it with that kind of sentiment or that intention, you know, from the beginning, you know. Yeah. And so that's where it started, and that's how we met. That was the first time we met, and here we are now with it made, and it's in the cinemas. So
that's what a great story. I mean, I'm a big believer in the transformative, you know, potential of art with people in their lives, you know. And I worked in a prison for 13 years with young offenders, and I used drama and music to transform some of their lives. It wasn't to turn them into great musicians or actors. It was just to try and give them empathy for others, and to give them a bit of self-esteem, a bit of self-love, to identify strengths and talents that they had. And what I sense from this film is just that in an absolute abundance, that people come to these gigs at Christmas time in Vicar Street and they are just uplifted, and it carries them through to the following year when they return. You know, just enough to keep you going. You know, in Newcastle, there's a band called Lindisfarne. I don't know if you're familiar with Lindisfarne.
Gaza did a song with them, didn't he?
That's right. So yeah, don't think of them in that context. But Alan Hull, who's dead now, was a great songwriter. But many years ago, they had traditional concerts every Christmas at the City Hall in Newcastle. There's 2,500 people, 3 concerts each year, always sold out within an hour or two, and they were absolutely tremendous. And what it gave people was a sense of identity, and it was like the Geordie thing, you know, everybody went along. But the atmosphere was incredible, and I've never seen anything like that until I saw clips of Damo's gig, and I thought, wow, this is like that, but it's even more profound, it's even deeper, it's going somewhere further. Having said that, Alan Hull is a great songwriter, and there's a song called Winter Song. Please listen to it, Damo. I think you should listen. I would love to hear you sing it. Winter Song. It's one of my favorite songs. The lyrics are tremendous. Song by Alan Hull. And it's just, I think the Northeast will feel this affinity with, there's a link there, you know, but I think you've taken it on a step or two, you know, it's moved forward, and it's just wonderful. I get so tired of listening to songs where I can identify the chord structure within 3. I teach a few young people, and they say, oh, I've got this song I want to sing, and I've never heard it before, and within like 30 seconds, they're amazed that I can play it on the piano for them, you know, because it's the same formulaic nonsense that we hear over and over again. You hear stuff like your music is just so refreshing, and to see it in this format, you know, I'm just so excited about it for you. Now you come to Newcastle. Where are you tonight?
The Lighthouse in Smithfield, Dublin.
Oh wow, fantastic! And you're out nearly every night at the moment, aren't you? Having premieres.
We will be,
fantastic.
We will be, yeah, Michael. It's just you know, when people come to the shows, I encourage them to sing. I was raised in sing-songs, you know, in my granny's house, and my uncles, my aunties, neighbours' houses, always sing-songs. I was raised in these sing-songs, and the vibration at the sing-songs, it felt very safe. It felt very warm and safe, you know, and when everyone sang together, you know, one singer sang and we all joined in, it was like you grew wings and you flew, you know. So I wanted to carry that on when I got to the stage, you know, at the shows. So I think when you sing, you have to focus, it's meditative. You have to remember the next line and try and stay in time and nearly in key. So when you get 1,500 people and sort of meditating together, the frequency in the room, the vibration, it's like your soul dances, you know. It's very primal and it's spiritual, and it's very healing.
Could you just tell us a little bit about some of the fans who are featured in the film, and a bit about a little bit about their lives, a little taste?
Obviously, the first thing with the film, as I said, was to kind of be a film that helps people. The second thing was to capture what goes on in the room authentically, to really capture and put that on film, what goes on in that room every Christmas. And then the third thing was to talk to the fans and really delve deep into their lives and understand what's gone on in their lives that makes this music resonate so deeply with them, right? So we've got Jonathan, Nadia, Paki, and to be honest, Damo is another character in the film as well, you know, and that's important to acknowledge, I suppose, you know. And that was the thing when I went to the gig. It felt like Damo was enjoying it as much as the crowd, you know, and he was just another person in the room, you know, and not some singer on a pedestal who's, you know, everyone's bowing down to, you know. He was getting as much out of it as the crowd, and that was something really unique, I thought, you know. But Jonathan, Nadia, and Paki are three characters that we follow, and each of them have, you know, been through a lot in their lives, you know, and I guess we wanted somebody kind of looking back on their life, someone looking forward, and then we wanted someone very much in the present tense, you know, as we're filming, they're going through it and they're processing it while we're filming nearly, you know. So Jonathan is our kind of wise old owl, if you like, who's kind of been through it and is out the other side, and is kind of looking back and imparting the wisdom that helped him through his struggles. And then Paki is looking forward and wondering what his future holds, you know. He's been through a lot, and, you know, as well, and he's wondering which way it's going to go, you know. And then Nadia is very much kind of, we're observing her as she's kind of coming out of the rehabilitation center and what's the word, integrating herself back into normal life, for want of a better word, you know, and trying to have a good Christmas, basically, you know.
Yeah.
So they're the three characters, and like when Damo said make a film that helps people, that was very much the motivation of the characters, you know. Jonathan, Nadia, and Paki, they all wanted to tell their stories because it might help someone else, you know, someone who's watching this film who's like, you know what, that's exactly like how I'm feeling now, or that's exactly how I felt. And if somebody watching can see something in themselves with their stories, you know, and it can help somebody, then that's a great thing, you know. And that was very much their motivation for getting involved, you know.
I suppose when you make the documentary, you don't know how it's going to go, do you? There's no script.
No, it's been an amazing experience. I've met so many brilliant people, and I've learned so much about myself and about others, and you don't know how it's going to end up. But like, I think, like when my friend said it to me in that pub that night, you know, it was one of those things. Sometimes the best ideas they just come straight away. You don't have to work too hard to think them up, or, you know, overthink them, if you like. It was immediately obvious to me what the film should be, you know, and how it should be done. And like, actually, kind of, I looked at the presentation that I showed to Damo, you know, way back then. That's like about 2.5 years ago now, and it's really not a million miles away, you know. It's very, you know, we made the film that we set out to make, you know, I believe, you know, obviously, not word for word, but like, you know, but it did feel like it all just came together very organically, you know, and it was meant to be, if you like, you know.
Listen, I can't wait to see it I've seen bits, but I haven't seen the whole thing yet, and I can't wait to see it next week. And it's been an absolute pleasure meeting you both. Can I just say, Damo, I've got one of my colleagues at the Tyneside Irish Cultural Society, Carol Hill, absolutely loves you, thinks you're amazing. Right? Give her a little wave, please.
Carol, how are you? Thanks for the support. Thanks very much.
Brilliant.
Looking forward to coming to Newcastle. I really we're very excited to, you know, show it to people outside of Ireland, and particular up in the northeast, you know. So can't wait.
I've got a feeling, you know, that those who haven't heard your music, if they get a chance to see this film, they will become huge fans immediately. I just think you've got mass appeal, you know, and I just think the world needs to hear more of Damien Dempsey, you know, they really do. And Americans, I'm sure the Americans are going to go crazy about this film as well.
We need subtitles, Michael. We need subtitles.
Not at all. They just need to learn to understand, don't they? That's it. You know. Listen, it's an absolute pleasure meeting you two guys. I know you've got a lot on tonight, and I'm so grateful for your time. I really look forward to meeting you next Wednesday. And, you know, good luck tonight. I hope you have a great screening in Dublin, and have a great night. And I'll see you next week. Okay.
Thanks a lot, bro.
Thanks, Michael. Much appreciated.